Welcome to the podcast Authors of the Pacific Northwest, where I connect authors with their readers. We also talk all about the author's inspiration, their journey to publication, and the authors will educate me and you, the listener, all about the business of writing. I'm your host, Vikki J. Carter, also known as the Author's Librarian. Hi there, listeners. It's the host and producer, Vikki J. Carter here of this podcast, The Authors of the Pacific Northwest. And before we jump into the episode, I wanted to stop real quickly and share with you the newest project that I'm working on. If you are an author, I think you might be interested in it. I have a YouTube channel that I just launched called The Author's Librarian on YouTube. And on that YouTube channel, I am going to share with you free accessible resources that you can use to help you with researching. I'm going to give you tips. I'm also interviewing librarians, and I'm writing a book to help authors with researching. So I hope you find me there on that YouTube channel. You can find the link in the show notes. Now let's get to the program. So hi there, podcast listeners. Thank you so much for coming back to the Authors of the Pacific Northwest. And this episode, I am thrilled to bring back on Bill Kenower, or it's William Kenower is his writing name, but I will be calling him Bill. And Bill has become one of my friends and almost a mentor in writing. So Bill, say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back.
I am so glad to have Bill back because we were just talking before we hit record. I think I recorded my first episode with Bill. It was episode 80. So we are now 108 episodes. So that's quite a bit back. And I probably recorded in January of 2020. It came out February of 2020, right before the pandemic. So we got a lot to catch up on, right, Bill?
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's been a lot has happened. A lot has happened for me and the world, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what happened for you first. So what happened in the last year besides
I published a book. I published another book for writers called Everyone Has What It Takes, A Writer's Guide to the End of Self-Doubt. And it came out June 1st from Penguin, and it's just great. Very excited. I'm going to be teaching. I don't know when this is going to air. We're talking on the 20th of July. In 2 days, I will be doing an all-day workshop for the Writer's Digest yearly conference. And Everyone Has What It Takes all-day workshop. That'll supposed to be in New York. They went virtual, so we're going to keep it. We'll be doing it virtual again. So very excited. You know, it's out, and I haven't done a big tour with it because things are still a little wonky.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just, I'm so thrilled to have it out. So glad to share it. It's been a project that has been in the works in one way or another for like a decade in a way.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting to have it out.
But you do a lot of writing coaching. Besides you do a lot of teaching for Writer's Digest. You have your own magazine, your own whole podcast, which I'm going to be coming on soon. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And we get to flip the script. You get to ask me questions.
That's right.
So excited. But so does this book come from you doing a lot of coaching with authors and writers? Because self-doubt's a huge element.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it did come from that in a way. I originally it was going to be a memoir called No One Is Broken. And it was going to be based on my experience with raising a son who's on the autism spectrum. And that language, that perception of a world without broken people you need to fix, people who had something inherently wrong with them that stood between them and sort of a full life. Whatever that was, whether it's physical limitation or things like autism, whatever it is, or a writer who's not publishing, which was the case for me at that time. And so I wanted to call that. I published a piece in the New York Times called No One Is Broken. It was great and had a nice, reception. I really wanted to write a memoir about that, but this is a little lesson to your listeners if they're interested in memoir. The words "no one is broken" was a statement that a realization that came to me, but it's not a story. It's not a story. And even though I tried to find one to fit that around that message, which I really believed in, it was really a struggle. And many people got interested. Many agents tried, and many publishers were pretty interested and couldn't quite get it. But in the meantime, I would be giving talks to writers. I'm always, I published Fearless Writing, a book called Fearless Writing a few years back. And I'd written a book called Write Within Yourself before that. So I was out there in the world of writing community. And my thing is always the emotional challenges of writing as opposed to the craft of writing primarily. And I found myself telling a lot of stories about my son, who's called Jack in this book. And talking about, I realized that the message of No One is Broken was so relevant to writers because writers often wonder if they have what it takes. Have they got with its talent? Usually we call it talent. And in the world of creativity, Vikki, it is not kind, but there is a sense of division between haves and have-nots, really. Like the ones who have it and the ones who don't. And like, hey, man, the way the cookie crumbles kind of thing. Yeah. And as I would talk about Jack and raising a kid on the spectrum and about answering the question of whether you have what it takes or not, I came to see that the two things really overlapped. And when it was my wife who said, well, actually, I talked about everyone having what it takes and how I give that talk every once in a while. She's like, well, that sounds like a book. And so it became a book for writers, a series of long essays about that idea of sort of inherent equality and the end of a writer's end of his end of self-doubt. Because the greatest doubt a writer has, I think the most fundamental is, do I have it or don't I? Because if you don't have it, you can't do it.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
So true. Yes.
And how do you know if you have it?
And how do you know you have it unless you do it, see it?
And even then, you could, believe me, you can write one. What if you don't have it for the next one? You just got lucky, blah, blah, right?
We're talking about this right after, and I apologize for the dogs. They're out of the studio, so if you hear it's my life. Just finished the self-production of my first book, like the whole gamut. Decided to go self-production on this one to kind of feel it all out, see what it's like. And I got it out there, great reviews, great, reception. And now I'm like, I have so much self-doubt almost every single day. I'm getting like these awesome, cool things happen. People want to hear about, the book and stuff. But I think I was talking to my daughter, who's an artist too. And I said, after the production of it all being done, putting myself totally into it. And then at the end of it, it's like, okay, now what? Now it's like this emptiness of almost depression, like of now what do you do? Of course, you start on the next project or something.
You start on the next project, and you can. The thing is, and it's harder with this step in it, and I go through it too. I was a big dream to get this book out, and then it came out, and it's always kind of a letdown because it's not. And also, these kinds of books aren't the kind of books like say a fiction book where there's a kind of like reviews and stuff. People don't review these types of books, or bloggers, but it's not that kind of thing.
No, it's true.
There's Amazon reviews, but not newspaper reviews or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't read Amazon reviews if I can avoid it. And so I go through it too. The thing you want to learn to do is to bring the same sort of creativity to the sharing of the work that you do to the production of it and the writing of it. The difference is that when you're writing it, the creativity, the steps are so immediate. It's idea, translation into sentence. Or if you're producing it, like, okay, I need to hire an editor, and you can really get your hands in it.
Steps to follow.
It feels like, and whereas the sharing of it and seeing it flourish requires there's a little more mystical kind of aspect to it. You have to, first of all, tap into wanting to share it, and then see what ideas come to you and trust that sort of the right people will find it and they'll share it. But you really want to stay focused on your desire for it to flourish and it to grow, and know that ideas for how to do that will come to you. But it's easy to think, well, it's out of my hands now, and I just got to, I can't be connected to how well it does out there, how often it's read. But you can, but it just requires a different kind of focus.
I think the focus that I shifted on, and it really comes to the self-doubt, because my book is for authors as well. And it's about researching, and it's a topic we all talk about, but it's not a topic we really talk about. It's like, oh, I researched, but I kind of went down the rabbit hole. But to have some clear-cut discussion about great researching and how it can benefit a writer, that's my mission, right? But it's almost like I feel like I have to educate a lot of authors, which I'm finding myself doing, which I love. But I think it comes down to that self-doubt that I think you might address, and I will be reading your book, so you know this
Oh,
because I
good, good. Well,
definitely
thank
need
you.
it. And but the thing about self-doubt is that I'm okay with producing when I'm in control of everything. It's putting
Sure. Oh, yeah.
putting
Oh,
that
yeah.
message out there. That's
Yeah.
where I start doubting myself. I'm like,
Right.
somebody's gonna be like, what is
Yes.
she talking about?
Somebody is not going to like it.
Exactly. That's
Somebody
so
is going to
good.
say, why did she write it? I don't understand. I don't like it. Why did she write it? Right. And, it's going to happen. Um, Everyone who's ever published or shared anything has said someone does not like this stuff. And usually when they don't like it, they don't see the value of it. They just don't perceive the value of it,
Yeah.
And so for my kind of stuff that I write, there are writers who really just want, like, give me the nuts and bolts, give me the steps I can follow. And, everyone has what it takes. Like, everything you need is in the title. Like, that's it. Like, like, you could end it right there, but I understand the mind kind of rebels against it. And so I write a series of chapters to help remind you of, like, yes, 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 you really do. You really do. Everyone really does. Everyone really, because I need reminding. We all need reminding of it.
Wow.
But if you're looking for, 7 steps to finishing your book in 3 months or whatever it is, that's fine. If you want to do that, like, you're not going to find it in my book. And you may, if you're that kind of reader, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
So and boy, we all have to contend with that. We all have to contend with it, and try. And you have to, when in doubt, you have to go into why you wrote it, and you think about all the mistakes people have made, is in your case, say, around research and not understanding the value of research and not understanding how to, like, you really go to the problems people have with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you think about how that answers those questions. And for me, I think about what it's like to think I don't have what it takes, or think some do and some don't, and how hard it is to live that way.
Yeah.
And, like, yes, I want to remember that everybody has what it takes. And so I wrote as much. So that's where you have to go. And that, that is enough if you can trust it. Because you're not going to ever get more secure than when you remember why you wrote it. Like, that is that even no matter how much praise people heap on you, no matter how many copies you sell, it's where it came from that is your real source of security.
And that, I think, plays not just to nonfiction writers, that really has
Everybody.
to do with the literary fiction world too, because there's a story inside of somebody that's burning in them and they have to write it.
Yeah.
I've heard that a million times when
Of course. Yeah.
And not everybody's gonna like that genre. Might pick up fans, they might not, but they have to remember they wrote that because that story, they needed to tell it. And I think that's a beautiful thing to remember.
Oh, it's true. Every kind of writer. It doesn't matter if you write poetry, romance, steampunk, vampire, lesbian romance, literary fiction, memoir. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all you. This is the thing you have to remember about when you're writing, is you perceive the value in something. So the value in doing a certain kind of research, the value in the emotional experience of being a writer, which is really what I'm so interested in, of creating something on purpose, or romance or science fiction. You see the value in it, and then you share it. You try to translate. I always think of it like this, Vikki. It's like, it's as if there's like a diamond in you, like that's a valuable thing, this beautiful, but it only exists in you.
Yeah.
And you, with your words, create it out in the world so everyone can see that diamond.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I like that picture. That's fantastic. And this doesn't just pertain to authors. I think your book is relevant for artists in general.
It's for humans.
Yes.
It's for human beings, because everyone, Vikki, everyone has what it takes.
I raised my kids. They swore that they thought at a time when they were younger, they went to school and they're like, wait, aren't everybody artistic? Don't they all have creative juices in them? Because I raised them that everybody has a flow of art in them. They just have to find what that art is and express it. And then they got to school and it was like, no, not everybody is. And
God.
They're like, yeah, my mom said.
Yeah. There's a kind of, it's weird what school is good and school is not so good. There's a lot of things in school that are very problematic. A really good teacher can mitigate those challenges, but there is a one-size-fit-all nature of it that is really contrary to the human experience. So it's nothing you can. For now, this is what we got, unfortunately.
So the book is really focusing in on self-doubt, but that everybody has that artistic ability. It is geared for writers, right?
It's written towards writer, but I mean, I was thinking about this because if I had to write the whole title out, it's too long. It would be
Yeah.
everyone has what it takes to succeed at the thing they love to do. So, I focus on writers because that's my platform. But if it's painting, if it's dancing, if it's entrepreneurial stuff, if it's gardening, you can succeed. Everyone, if you like to do something, if you're interested, you have what it takes to succeed at that. Like that is the is the intersection of your interest and your imagination, your acute. So here's an interesting example
I
of this. I
love
was
that
thinking,
title though, by the
of
way.
course, because there's a state.
Long
I
title person.
right because I drew that phrase is out there. Does he have
Yeah.
what it takes? Does he have what it takes? Everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone has it. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this recently. So I'm working with a group called Transcending Cancer. So
Mm.
one of the people who started it was a client of mine. Her husband got stage 4 cancer, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I was coaching her just in memoir writing. She lives in New Zealand. And
Mhm.
the coaching shifted for me to help deal her with the emotional, what she was going through. It
Yeah.
turns out what I talked to her about, and I don't even remember what it was, but was what they used to get through that. And apparently he got through that, and very spiritual kind of people. And they wanted to create a platform to help people deal with the emotional and spiritual challenges of cancer, both the people who have it and the people who are living with those people, because it's a whole thing if your partner comes. Okay. So they said, will you come and teach fearless writing to people who are part of this community? I said, I'd love to. So I gave this free talk and they're like, oh, it's really good, but it seemed geared towards people who already like to write. We think a lot of people don't know how to write or don't see themselves as writers yet. Could you talk to people who don't see themselves as writers,
Yes.
who could use writing as a tool to heal from cancer? And as soon as they asked me that, I said, I absolutely can. Yes, I can. But here's the interesting thing. I'd never done that before. And I had not a single idea of what I would say to them, but I was absolutely certain I could. And the reason was I already could feel within myself that acute interest in communicating why writing as a tool could be helpful to someone sort of cracked open by cancer, as I think of it. And so even though I had no idea how to do it, had never done it, I could feel within me the thing that would give me all the particulars, the details of that talk. That would come, but I already had within me what I needed to give that talk, which was my interest, and then my imagination, source energy, God, whatever language you want gives me all the ideas I need. But I already had the interest, and I had like intense interest. And once I have that, we're good. And I think that, and it's beautiful, isn't it? But I think what happens with a lot of people is, and if there's one thing that makes me a professional creative person, is I know that's enough. Like I don't, and I think people get that and they think, well, so what that I'm interested? Everybody's interested. Like, why is that important? It is like, that is the gold. That's where it is. But you have to know it is the gold and you have to trust it's the gold, or else you don't think you have anything.
I love it. I always get so energized when I talk with you because I'm like, I know this. I feel that. I've had that experience so many times. With this book, the idea for my book, it literally was in my head for over a year. I think I would kind of talked a little bit about it with you, but this was not the first book I was going to write. I was working on historical fiction.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it was like this burning need. I had to get it done. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I had to get done. I got pushed from some other really great people in self-publishing. Get it out. Let's just get it out. Do it right. And that burning, like that feeling, it's almost like central. Like you're doing what you've been called to do. It's the most phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
Love to live there all the time, but then the day comes in, right? Life comes
well,
in.
I will tell you, Vikki, I have decided, yes, of course, it's easier to be focused like when it's just you and the blank page, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But what I've realized is I think my career as a writer grows based more not on what I do when I'm writing, because that I get, like at this point, that's easy in a way. It's what I'm doing when I'm not writing. And I'm not talking about marketing and that kind of stuff, but just how I spend my days thinking and focused. The more I can stay in that same kind of positive, you know what it's like? It's really seeing myself as the creative, this is a phrase my wife, I'm going to give it to credit where credit's due. It's actually, there's a essay called this in the Author magazine now, written by my wife, Jen. But she gave it the language, I love it, that you're the creative center of your life. And so you're creating your life in the same way I face a blank page and fill that the way I want to. See my whole life that way. The more I see my life that way, the happier I am, the more on purpose I live. But the more I start seeing things like just sort of happening to me and things are out of my control and what the choices I make don't really affect these things, the more unhappy I get and the less involved I am in my life. So I try to stay in that authorship frame of mind as much as possible. And that's been the great challenge of my life, I think, staying there. But it can be done. You just have to believe that that's where you need to live from.
Yeah. And it's something I'm working on every day because, you know, I'm still doing the day job.
Oh, yeah.
Podcast. I'm still doing.
You're a librarian, right?
Yeah. But I'm actually work for a university and I'm not a librarian for that university. They didn't hire me as a librarian. I coach and mentor students to finish their bachelor's degree in IP. And so I have a caseload of over 100 students that I speak to every week. And motivation is the big
of course.
thing. So it's wonderful and I enjoy it. And I do projects for the university library, but they wanted to hire me, but they wanted to relocate me. And I'm like, I'm a Northwest gal. I'm never relocating. I have to be 20 minutes away from my kids and that's not happening.
Right.
So I stay where I am. And that's another reason why this book was important for me because I wanted to share with the writers community what I can't share in my university community with students. The amazing tips and techniques that a lot of people miss. But for me, I fantasized about what if I could just not do that day job and it was always about writing. And I came to an epiphany because I was starting to get really frustrated and I wasn't doing great with mentoring my students. And that's still a passion for me. And I told my husband the other day, you know what? I have to really refocus this, that everything I do in my day is me giving back to someone because I'm a giver. I love to share and serve. And I wanted to focus all my serving on the writing community. And I kind of started to lose track of serving my students. And I have to be able to serve everybody. Whoever it is I talk to, I'm going to serve and help, right?
Good, yeah.
And so that focus shift is so important.
Yeah. And I think as time rolls along and we grow, our focus shifts. And I think it's important. I've actually, there's a chapter in Everyone Has What It Takes where I talk about keeping up with yourself. You know, there's a phrase, get out of your comfort zone. And I actually don't agree with that. I think your job is to keep up with your comfort zone. I think it keeps growing and often we stay where we were. And so, the fact that you wanted to shift to all writing, what that was, I think, was a clue to you that you were wanting something more.
Yes.
Now, it may be that you would like to make all your living, and you could, but you'd have to say, I'm really going to do that. And I need to now think creatively about what that would look like and think about this and understand it will take some time.
Yeah.
But it also may mean that the way you work with your students may want to evolve and you may want to let yourself go deeper with, but if you're asking, there's something more you're wanting. Because what happens is you work with writers and you recognize something and you're like, oh, this is interesting. I want more of this. Yeah. And I go through that too in the nature of, the kind of way I used to interview people, and it's changed a lot as my own thinking has changed and my writing has changed. And so you got to keep up with yourself, because you discover something and you're like, hey, I really like that. I don't want it to be sporadic. I would like it to be all the time, because why not? Aren't we not here? I know you're here to serve, but let me tell you something. You're here to serve you, by which I mean, even as you go and help people, you're helping yourself. Don't pretend you're not. You grow as you help. You're expanding. Them saying,
so true.
Right? I love helping people, but it's because it's exciting and interesting to me. And the connection between them, of me and them, is so fulfilling. But it's in the end, but the one who's served, I know for a fact, is me in my life because of that experience.
Thank you for bringing that background. This is I hope my listeners are following all this because this is all such good stuff. And you're getting it for free, y'all. So
that's right. This costs big bucks usually, but we're doing it for free.
But no, there's so many things. Let's talk a little bit about the fearless writing, because I want to talk with you a little bit about my experience with you,
Hmm.
which is I feel like was a bit of a coaching experience that I don't think you knew you were helping me with. So
Oh,
let's lay the foundation for that. So Bill asked me to write a little bit about my book for his magazine,
yes.
but not as a personal narrative and not necessarily as the book, which I love to do, and it was a good challenge. And I started it, and I had some of my friends in my writers group, which are super strong writers. They reviewed it. They gave me some insight, and I changed some things around. Sent it to Bill, and Bill gave me really great feedback. But some of that feedback pushed me really hard because some of the narrative that I was talking about, I'm not free to talk about at this point in my life. And Bill picked up on it. And so he's like, we got to work on this a little bit. So it was challenging, but by the end of it, I'm so happy with where we ended up with that article.
Good.
And I just want to tell you, thank you. Because
Oh, you're welcome.
when I emailed you and said, I did this fearlessly, it was genuine.
Oh, good, good.
The idea that we have to oftentimes do some introspective work and tell stories that might be challenging, and finding a way to do that with respect to possible others in this world, because that's where
Yeah.
some of it is for me, is a big challenge for writers, I
Oh, it's
think.
a challenge for a lot of people. I only write about my own life, my own experiences. And the
Mhm.
thing I've learned to do is that if the point of the story is how life affected me, how I reacted to life, and life involves other people, no judgment on them. Like they're just living their life, doing their thing. You described an experience with someone who did some stuff he shouldn't have done, but guarantee this, he thought he was doing the right thing. Everyone who does anything thinks they're doing the right. It's hard to get,
But
but
they do believe that.
oh, they always do. Even when I've done things I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But at the time it seemed to make sense.
Yeah.
Right. But if the focus is, I had this experience, whether it's with a dog or a tree or a person, and this is how I changed from it. This is what I learned from it, how I grew from it. People rarely take offense because
Yeah.
it's so much of, even when they're this in the story, because
Yeah.
it's about what you went through. And when you can really make it about that, you're pretty safe. Now there's always people out there, but I think it's pretty hard for it. Where people take offense is when you start telling their story and saying why you think why they did or judging them or calling them
Mhm.
bad people. And if you
Mhm.
can leave all that and just say, this is what happened,
Yeah.
this is my experience, and this is how I grew, you're in pretty good shape. And
Yeah.
also, one of the reasons I wanted to work with these people who have cancer is people with cancer often have some very painful stories from their past, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
all do. Look, we all do, right?
Mhm. But
And-
cancer will bring up a lot
oh,
of that.
of
And there's a
course.
healing process that goes through with the healing of cancer. Lived
Oh,
with my mother-in-law twice.
wow.
Gone through 2 cancer treatments with her. So I've walked this road with her.
Oh, it's intense, right? And it's intense. And but the thing about grief and pain is it is a moment when life has your attention.
Mhm.
And I think one of the best stories I wrote as a young man was about my first real true heartbreak, like legitimate. It was around someone I'm now married to, but I didn't know at the time that we
Yeah.
weren't going to come. And even though it was painful, I never felt so alive in a way, in truth,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was like really present. And it wasn't just all my sort of daydreams, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, but boy, life had my attention.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the best thing to write about was when I was in pain. I
Yeah.
think there's more to write. Well, there's obviously more to write about than that, but I think it's very important to go back to those moments and understand why life had your attention. And usually, Vikki, this is the deep truth I've learned from writing about my own life. The pain you feel is not from what happened, but from how you interpreted it.
Yeah.
Not what happened. Because if you have something happen and you say, therefore, I have no voice. Therefore, the people aren't trustworthy. Therefore, I'm weak. Therefore, I'm not valuable. That's the pain, not the
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
challenge is to go back and tell the story differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
that,
so,
right.
listeners, that's what Bill had me do. So I was
Yes.
going
Yeah.
through this whole process of explaining why I stopped writing for a while, and I couldn't get past that point. I didn't know how to share the healing part of it because the healing is so multifaceted, right? And
Sure.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gave me like how many word count? This is
Yeah, that's right. Right.
being, and it was so funny because once again, I credit my writers group because I was invited into this writers group. They're all older than me. They invited me in before I ever published. They heard I was writing. They listened to some of my podcasts. They're a local group, and they have helped me like write past all these fears and all of the
Yeah.
anxiety and everything. And so that's really where a lot of my healing started. Only a few years ago, of feeling confident that my voice can resound or be important and be heard again.
Absolutely.
So obviously I'm going to credit that.
Yeah.
So that was just such a great experience. So thank you. I don't know if any of us know sometimes how we help others unless people communicate
We
that,
don't.
right? And so it's important for me to make sure you know that you really helped me
Thank
through
you.
that process.
Thank you. I appreciate, I like to help people. Sometimes they tell me I've helped them.
Yeah.
I've had people come up and say, I really needed this book, but most of the people you will help, there's a story there's a chapter called Earthly Powers in the book about my uncle who was in a wheelchair, and then my it involves James Joyce and Anthony Burgess, these two writers that were influential. But it ends with this scene where I'm seeing this man in a wheelchair when I was sitting with Jack in this big food court in this mall, and the perception of him, he was quadriplegic, I think, and there was something, and I won't go into it, but seeing him, the value of life hit me in a certain way, and you'll have to read the piece to understand it. But one of the things I can't is he'll never know how he helped me.
Mm-hmm.
He'll never, just the sight of him.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Burgess will never know how he helped me. There were so many people who will never know that in the smallest things, they taught me something. I've learned from it. And I think that's 99% of the help we get from people is totally unknown to it. But know that it's happening all the time. Know that your work is reaching people in a way that you can't really. I mean, it was Richard Bach who first told me that. He was like, and he reached a lot of people, that guy. He wrote a book in the early 70s, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, that went ballistic, and sold 40 million copies or something. And he was like, someone's going to pick your book up. You'll never hear from them. They'll never tell you, but it's going to change your life.
Yeah.
But I do believe on some level, if I tune in, I can feel it.
I believe that.
Right?
I believe with all my heart. I believe that we can tune into it. So all of that to say, listeners, when you hear an author on my podcast that you've fallen in love with, or you read their book or whatever, I always encourage you, let them know. Let them know.
It's true. We love to hear from you.
Email, man. You don't know how much we're starving to know.
We don't hear. I don't hear from people much. I mean, I do hear some, but I think people are shy and they don't think to do it. But I love hearing from them.
It really does. And so Bill, let's talk, because I will be getting this out hopefully before I go on vacation at the end of this month. So 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I'm unplugging on vacation. So I'm so excited. But give us what you have, kind of what we can look forward to the next couple months. I know my listeners can go onto my show notes and find your information.
Well, what have I got going on? I'm not a lot. The summer kind of is quiet. I'm going to be teaching at the Pacific Northwest Writers Association's conference. So you can, I take it back. There's a couple things. So that the PNWA is the end of September, and I'll be doing 3 classes there.
And is that going to be face-to-face or virtual?
No, we're doing it virtual, unfortunately.
I might be able to come in.
That's right. And also through Writer's Digest in September, I will be doing virtual. So no matter where you are in this a fearless writing class workshop, and then a fearless marketing workshop back to back. You can sign up for one or both. Yeah, fearless marketing. Awesome. Fearless marketing, I love teaching that. This is not about how to market, but how to use your same, there is, but not like, here are the 6 things you have to do, but how to use your same writer's imagination in the marketing that you do in the writing. And you can do it.
You will be seeing me there, Bill, for that
one.
Well,
that would be great. So that's through Writer's Digest. And we hope to be doing 1 a month of those. That's our plan. And then the Transcending Cancer, I don't know when we're still feeling out when that's going to begin, but that'll probably begin in the fall too, where I'll be doing some regular stuff through them. So that's kind of that's what I know for sure right now I'll be doing.
And so you
and my podcast every week. Every week. So if you go to williamkenower.com, that has links to sort of everything. The podcast, Author Magazine. I write a essay twice a week for Author Magazine about writing and creativity. And, I coach people. So if you want to do one-on-one coaching, there's links for that too. but it's all at williamkenower.com. And so every week, every Tuesday, I do a podcast. Sometimes it's live, recorded live, and sometimes it's like what we're doing, and I pre-record it and put it up. But every week we do one.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I have felt blessed having you in my life these 2 years, 1 year, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, 2 years. Yeah. About that.
A year. One of the most profound things that from our last episode, so in 80, I'm still debating about my fiction books and how I'm going to publish. And I'm not worried about it at this point. I'm like, it'll just organically happen. I might find an agent, I might not, whatever. Now that I've self-published, I kind of know I can do that too. So I'm at a good place. But I remember I was really debating about it. And you said, don't not pursue. I don't think that's how you said it.
Right.
An agent out of fear. And I was like, man, you just, my language.
Yeah.
I've quoted that 100 times on my podcast.
Oh, good. Well, it's true.
So good. Never do anything out of fear, right?
No, nothing out of fear. So there's nothing wrong with independent publishing, but don't independent publish out of fear of rejection from traditional publishing.
The rejection.
I will say this about traditional publishing. The goal is to find people who once you find the right people, it's as easy as independent publishing. Mm-hmm. Easier, I must say, because they do so much work. Yeah, right? You just get to do the creative writing part. You do most of the writing, and I do most of the marketing. Let's be honest, but that can change. But you have to find the right people, and it's just like finding a spouse, finding a friend. It's the same process, and the way to look at it is, you have a dream of publishing a book. And agents and editors have dreams of publishing books too. They have a dream of publishing books they like and books that succeed, because everybody wants the book to succeed. It's just the overlapping dreams allow it to come. You're looking for someone who's dreaming the same dream as you. And when you meet them, it's so much easier. Not like, I got to prove I'm good enough. Yeah. I don't know how to do that. But I do know how to find people who are lined up with me. And once you do, it goes quite effortlessly if they're the right people. So that's something to hold in mind. They're friends. I believe that if it's meant to be that way, it'll happen. Good. I'm just not stressed about any of that anymore. Yeah, good. And I've learned so much. This will be 109 podcasts. So wow. I know. And I'm even slowing down. But that's 109 authors that I've discussed this topic with, about how they write, how they got published, that whole journey. It's been such a great, phenomenal experience for my growth, and hopefully others. Matter of fact, I'll have a couple authors come on that I didn't know. They'd listen to the podcast and like, I really want to be on your podcast. That nice. So rewarding to have that opportunity. People say, I've listened and I want to be on. So, that's great. See, you're learning. I started interviewing authors. They were video interviews. I still do video interviews, but I did a lot of video interviews. And the reason was I wasn't having any success as a writer. I was very frustrated with it, but I knew it wasn't because I didn't know how to write. I knew I could write, but for whatever reason, it wasn't happening. But I wanted to just be sitting in the room with someone who was flourishing. It's like, what is that like? What is it like what does it feel like? What's the energy? What's the point of view? What's the mindset? I just wanted to sort of like tune myself to them, not to write their books, but just tune. And so it was very helpful for me too. It's been the best education. My husband laughed at me because I decided to do all this and not do my doctorate. And he's like, you're basically getting a doctorate in. You are. Yeah. I know. Isn't that cool? From real world experience, baby. Smart. I go, well, it's also exhausting because there's commitment that I do on the end of it, right? Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure speaking with you again. So everybody go to Bill's website. Make sure you join him in those workshops. I think that it will be helpful. You'll probably see me there if you get to see people's names. I'll definitely be there. Excellent. And we will have you come back when your next book is out, Bill. Yes, I'm writing it now. So when it comes out, it's more creativity stuff, more creativity. That's what I do. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Make sure you jump on the show notes and find the author, buy their books, write a review. And most importantly, you can find out more about me and my projects at one of my two websites, www.squishpin.com or theauthorslibrarian.com. And until next time, this is Vikki J. Carter, the Author's Librarian, signing off.